Hello. How's my artistic family doing this Sunday? Um, Dude, daylight savings caught me off guard. I don't know if it caught most of you guys off guard. Right now, I'm located in Central America, and within Central America, the thing which we call daylight savings doesn't really exist. So I've just kind of been like shell shocked when the times change. You know, I was doing a mentorship, and as a part of doing the mentorship, is moved sometime around. Um, it's usually like around 10 o'clock for me because I do Pacific Standard Time, and I was like, yeah, I can sleep in, and then I checked the time, and I was like, nah, dude, you gotta go right now. I was like, oh no, so I had to like get up and earlier than I expected, but it was all right. It wasn't too crazy. It's just funny to me. Anyway, I'm feeling tired. Took a bit of a nap and decided to do a video in which I convert this tank image to maybe like some sort of cool looking mech. Who knows? Um, yeah, because right now I've been doing a lot of painting, but I wanted to kind of talk about like how I would handle stuff like this. Photo bashing is, I mean, it seems like an ancient art these days because of the horizon of 3D tools and what have you. But photo bashing is incredibly useful, especially if you're creating more like live action type of content. But again, I think using 3D tools still is just a better strategy ultimately. I tend to use more 3D, and I think more art directors and artists and art leads are just a little bit more savvy and a little bit more like skilled when it comes to like reviewing art. Where in the past, like a lot of people who were in our business weren't that savvy. Um, and to be fair, like it's still kind of the case, but I think with people knowing more and more about like movies that are like high definition, super visual effects, and seeing kind of the behind the scenes. Like you got to remember, like the film industry isn't that old. It's like just a bit over a century old. Let alone like the modern film industry that we know and love today. You know, what I mean, it is just wildly different environment. I saw like this meme too, where it was kind of making fun of modern concept artists, and you know, I think it's kind of funny, but I don't think it's empathetic. It's a little mean spirited, and it was like when I was a concept artist, I had to like learn how to draw, and then modern concept artists is like if I can't use 3D tools, then I can't do anything, or if I don't have the latest and greatest video cards, then how can I make art? And I think there's a lot of truth in this premise that some people are a little too tools oriented, and why someone like myself and other seasoned veterans are kind of like, what? Like whatever, people are nervous about these tools. So it's good, like, that's not the point of tools, right? Tools are just to help you convey premises and ideas and visual concepts um, effectively to others. It still surprises me that from time to time I'll get some opportunity, and I'll work with like companies, and they don't know what a concept artist is. I've worked with people that are not that much uh, younger than my oldest son, having no clue what it even means to do concept art, which seems crazy, but it is true. And not knowing that like you can basically come up with basically come up with imagery and visuals just from drawing, and that you should do lots of this, and a lot of people just don't know about it. Seems wild, but it is true that a lot of folks are not as savvy as you might think, but at the same time they have a little bit better artistic eye these days, so they don't necessarily need this kind of crazy ragtag you know I don't know what I was going with this. Basically, they don't need to just like go. I was paying attention to what I just did right now. They don't need as fancy paintings as they once were. They can kind of get away with just some loose drawings and some 3D renders, and kind of get some momentum of what they want out of the art direction. But what I think is important is not to lose the value of what these tools can provide, you know? And one of the things that I like about photo bashing is not so much that it's like I can make a complete image without having to worry about lighting and rendering. Like I can just cheat. I think that's kind of a premise that one might have, but rather like how fun it is to almost like kind of like, you know, like those newspaper clipping collages, like one of those types of things. But instead of news clippings, you're doing it with like photographs, and you're creating like these really interesting collages. You know what I mean? And what I'm doing here is just a classic approach to making an image, right? And you still have to have some understanding and still have to have some skill on what you're trying to do here. But at the end of the day, you know, like there is a lot of value understanding how a 3D tool or 2D tool or photo bashing can get you somewhere faster. You know, whenever people talk about AI being a tool, and I've seen some of my contemporaries use it, and the unfortunate thing is like, although there's some ethical arguments that I'm still pretty like stringent by, I still believe that there's some ethical questions that need to be resolved here. But I'm still not convinced that it's faster than some traditional methods, including photo bashing. You know what I mean? Because what some people would argue that I've seen online, like when I would watch the quote unquote AI prompt artists, they would make the point of like, you know, it took me like 3 hours to come up with this visual. And I'm just kind of like, what? 3 hours just to get this image? And sure, maybe they can create like 100 variations of that one idea. I've seen that, which that's pretty cool. But it's still like, it just feels like a fever dream, right? It doesn't really feel like, here, let me do some photoshopping right now. Hold on. It doesn't really feel like somebody was really driving. It just feels like the robot's best interpretation of what you were trying to get out of it. And I'm not convinced that's better. You know, I think photo bashing, the value of photo bashing is that it still requires you to do creative stuff. Like good photo bash artwork can't just be cheated. Like you still have to have some ability. You have to have some strategy in putting stuff together. Here, let me do this real quick. Because it's just not going to come together easily. You know, you still have to like essentially find a way to make it convincing for other people when they look at it, you know? And like I said, I'm just not convinced. Oh, no wonder. I was like, why is this not working? I'm using like just the advanced Photoshop stamp tools and shit like that, and it just wasn't working. I just realized I had some other layers above, so it's probably why I didn't do it a good job. Usually what you could do, just a little bit of tutorial, you can just kind of like lasso, or you can even use some of like the content aware tools. Now, I will be frank, if you're working for a company who is pretty rigid about using AI tools, then be very cautious of tools like the content aware, because there is like some of that is being used through AI filters. And as far as I'm concerned, this is still kind of your traditional stamping tools that I've been using literally for decades. So I don't think I'm doing any foul play here, but I would probably still be cautious. Anyway, yeah, because this brush is just the, oh yeah, see, create texture, proximity match. Yeah, I'm just using just the Band-Aid. That's usually just paying attention to what's around and just try to figure it out using the same pixels nearby. And the reason why I'm sure it's not AI because it will not do a good job. It will not do a pretty good job. It will just basically clone stamp it. Um, but I don't care that it's perfect. All I actually care about, um, oh yeah, look at that. I need to merge this down. Is that I can get the ground. Yeah, see, it's not doing a good job. And then let's see the mountains here. Let's take this out of the picture. I just want to get the ground. And it doesn't, I'm not even aiming for photorealism anyways. So I'm going to definitely do a bit of a quote unquote painterly filter on top of this, which is just me painting on top of everything. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want it to not look too jangled. All right, I'm going to just straight up take this big chunk. Actually, I could probably take a lot of this and just move it on over. Do that. And then let's merge that down. But anyway, like I was saying, like this isn't as fast perhaps like as like using certain tools within AI, I can imagine. But it's not that much slower either. And if I'm, like I said, if I'm hearing people spending 3 hours, like they're making a claim that this is still hard, then it's like, you are missing out on a primary skill then that is just the ability to make images look believable in general. And if you imagine somebody like me having access to quote unquote AI tools versus your average Joe, then it's obvious that I'll be running laps around them because I can do every part of the process. Again, and this is in the scope of like if these become ethically sourced. But even still, like this is kind of the point. Like I'm still like, bro, photobashing and using 3D tools is still relatively fast for concept work. And I was just watching some people's like not music videos, I'm sorry, getting lost in the sauce here. I'm just trying to paint this out. I saw like some concept artists making their own animated shorts just using Blender and like it's just them and like maybe a couple other people like with sound and audio and shit, but it's not like anybody else. And they're not like using AI tools, right? And I had a buddy that I saw, and unfortunately I was kind of like, that's lame that they're kind of using AI stuff, but it's like, it wasn't that interesting and it just looked like AI, you know? And there's something about that that's still kind of not that impressive, you know? And people keep claiming that one day it will be the thing and it'll just look amazing and we're all going to be cooked. But it's just like, there's a lot that goes into making something impressive and AI is just not there yet. Cool. So this is great. This is what I am happy to see here. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm going to take a lot more pieces from this tank piece. So let's take like this whole piece out. Let's take this front. This front is actually pretty dope. We could probably reuse that. Actually, let me do a better job of lassoing that. Let's take this back and basically photobash. For those of you who are like unfamiliar with this technique and just like this is the first time you've ever seen it, you're just like, wait, what the fuck is this? Essentially what photobashing is ultimately just a trick that is kind of borrowing a phrase that was once coined. Here, let me do this. It was once coined for kit bashing when like old visual effects houses would take, 3D assets and essentially like 3 model kits, like stuff that you would use for like making a model car, right? Or model planes. And then they would just like throw them together to create essentially the Millennium Falcon, And this was like a pretty fascinating way to like make things look believable, but at the same time kind of new and fresh, And what ended up happening with that kind of approach is that you start to seeing it borrowed elsewhere, like I said, like in photos. But essentially, it's that. It's all it is just taking a photo and bashing it together, like you're seeing me do now. And I like this kind of this face thingy, but I'm gonna use it kind of like as a texture. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna throw it in between. Let's see what we can do with this. Shoot. I think it might just be cool if I just flip it and leave it upside down. Oh, this actually is cool. Yeah, let's leave it there. What am I using? Darker color? Okay, cool. Yeah, that's giving me some cool greeble. So we'll just do that. We'll come back to that in a second. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just grab all these and I am going to duplicate it and then merge this all down so I can have this all as all this as like its own flattened layer. Cool. Cool. Yeah. And let's just merge that down and lock it. Oh, what? What's going on? What's going on here? But look, like it's been about 16 minutes and I've been goofing around and I'm like lost train of thought a few times to be honest because I haven't done photo batching in quite a while, so I actually have to think a little bit. But like I got something pretty like I could probably show this to somebody as like a rough mock-up and they can be like, yeah, this like cool looking tank mech, dude, down for it, you know? But it's, oh, you know what? I don't want to merge all this together. I just realized I could do something smarter. Okay, so we did all that. I'm going to merge all the pieces and then keep the background separate. That's what I want to do. Okay. Yeah. And I don't think it was smart to include the ground to this guy. So let's just go ahead and eliminate that nonsense. So, yeah, let's get rid of any. All right, cool. Yeah, let's do that. That seems okay. Yeah, because that way I can like erase into this. And honestly, it would be cool to start to create real compartments here. But, and this is very chunky feeling. I wanna give it less chunky vibes here. Give us some elegance, some negative space. But this approach, like you can see, even with me stumbling my words, kind of haphazardly putting stuff together, yeah, like 15-20 minutes, I got one little variation that is, for all intents and purposes, kind of feels like it could have been done with AI, you know? And that's kind of my point. Like, if you're looking to just make something that looks like a fever dream of an idea, I still suspect that photo bashing is incredibly useful tool still, you know? And you just get more value from it because you kind of handcrafted it the entire time, meaning that you have a little bit more like wherewithal of what you've done and what you've constructed here, you know? And that means something. That adds value. That's a little bit more interesting to me as a creator. You know what I mean? And with this, along with some decent painting skills, you can get quite a lot of value out of your imagery. Again, I've been really a big fan of using more and more 3D, and perhaps I'll put together something for you guys to see what that looks like. But I'm honestly still trying to learn it myself. Like I have a workflow that I've been kind of devising, but it just takes time to learn. And it still feels pretty fast, pretty efficient in comparison to some other techniques. Ooh, you know what I think I need here? Let's go back to our original tank. Okay, here we go. And let's just grab this big piece here and let's create some wings. Okay, So let's throw this back in here. Because I feel like it's chunky. And honestly, that's a cool look. I'm not that disgusted by it. I like to have strong shapes and silhouettes. So I'm gonna do this. I think this will help. I think that's like grass. Like this noise is like grass. But you'll notice that at this level, let's say if I did something like this and just sharpen the shape a little bit. Although that was once grass, I've converted it into kind of like this metallic planar shape at the end of this. And all I have to do is kind of add a bit of connective tissue using the values and colors that are nearby to essentially take claim of this new shape that I've created. And for anyone who wouldn't know the wiser, they would think that that was also metallic, or that might have came originally from the photo, which you guys all bear witness it did not. Okay, so then let's just go ahead and merge all this together, because I need to do some damage to this parts now. Kind of create some opportunities to make it feel a little bit more disjointed, that it could look like it could bend in within itself, like there is pieces and parts that demonstrate its construction. These little arm thingies are kind of cool. It kind of looks like a praying mantis of some sort, or some sort of insectoid. Insectoid. Word of the day, guys. Insectoid. Yeah. Now I think the balance of shapes and form with this wing, throw it off. So let's do that. I like the guns, but I also think that this could be, we can shrink it a bit, kind of make it feel a little bit more Metal Slug. And again, pop in some negative shapes here. And keep in mind, a lot of photo bashing artists will use multiple imagery too. They won't use just one photo. They'll like grab like parts of a like a jet, like a F-16, or other tanks, or things you would never imagine smashing together, like a fucking blender. Like not Blender the 3D tool, like a blender, like Ninja, like the Ninja blenders, you know, and just throw that in there, and it will like give it some really good sculpted forms, you know. But not me. I'm like, I can get away with whatever I have available to me in this simple tank image. I don't need any more or any less. And so what I'm going to do here, though, because I realize that there's some yeah, this is like floating parts. Here, let's do a little bit of this too. Let's do more tertiary silhouette breaking shapes. This will help a lot. Let's kind of isolate this little camera shape so it feels very strong and prominent compared to everything around it. Just commit. Use this to help create cohesiveness with the planar shift of the lighting here. Yeah, look at that. And then let's try to get some noise, boys, in these hand-painted parts. So let's go ahead and grab a lot of this stuff right here. Just like that. I'm just going to grab it dirty, and I am going to essentially just slap it here. What did we use before? We used darker color. So let us use darker color. Actually, I don't think darker color is going to do it for us this time. I think it might actually be lighter color. Let's see. Lighten. I like what lighten's doing. So again, what this is providing for me is just some ideas of how it's going to essentially give me something to work with when I paint over it. And what's cool is that I can like before I commit to my painting, I can just start fucking with the value of it, like the intensity of the brightness, and just keep using this shape over and over all throughout the rest of this as a tool for texture and like shape design. And Photoshop has some fancy stuff here, guys. Check this out. I can go double click on this. And again, this isn't a tutorial. This is just me talking some shit and do my video quota. but like I can control whether it goes into the dark values or whether it doesn't go into the lighter values. You know, either it does not affect the light values at all, or it doesn't affect the dark values at all. I can choose the destiny, or I can do a combination of the two. I think I have to get like real close here. There you go. You know, so it's just subtle, but it's like enough, you know? And we'll keep using that layer here elsewhere to see if we can get some extra texture, some noise, get some noise up in this biatch. And I'm okay with that. And then again, just to keep life as a surprise, I'm merging all this shit together. I have no interest on being clean. I'm just going to be a noisy boy. Just let it be. And again, if you aren't confident enough to do this kind of aggressive approach, and you're watching me do this, and you might be flabbergasted. You're like, what in the world? Like, I didn't know this is even a thing that you could do, because you're a 17-year-old high school kid that's never been exposed to photobashing. You've been given the good graces of seeing other stuff like 3D tools and what have you, which are also godsend and amazing and a blessing. But and for those of you who are like ancient dinosaur artists like myself, they're like, oh, this brings me back to the good old days, back when making art used to be all about having the best photo collection. You know, just a reminder that this is still top-notch strats. You know, and again, remember, I can just paint this as well. Maybe not this realistically, but definitely I could have done something that was similar to this type of idea, like this ideation, this silhouette, and this kind of premise of a tank mech. You know, I think I could have still come up with some good ways to make this happen. But what I'm trying to do is just remind folks that there are just, I feel like, better ways to do a lot of what we see online. And for whatever reason, people are like really losing their shit with stuff like AI, and just like, I don't get it. Well, let me be fair. I think at first it was kind of like, now I can see the potential, but it's been years. Truly, it's been quite a while. I think almost 3 or 4 years. And I have still yet to see a true utility outside of just gimmicks. And I think people need to snap out of it. Like, come on, guys, we got to move on. And people need to make great content. And one thing that I would love to do is bring back the old guard of our artistic community, what it was like to make art when I was growing up, which is strong community vibes, strong sharing of each other's knowledge, and helping one another, and being encouraging of one another, and really getting each other's backs when it comes to this type of stuff. The community is very good. It's very strong when we are together. And I have felt the sense of disjointedness. And I would love to bring it back in some meaningful way. But anyway, hopefully this makes a lot of sense to you guys. I don't know if I actually will do the painterly part I said I was going to do, just because I'm looking at the time. We're almost at 30-minute mark. But yeah, if somebody is using AI and it takes them, quote unquote, a few hours to come up with something that looks reasonable, I think that's tough. And if you are looking at this and say, well, I can make now 17,000 different iterations, though, like an unlimited amount of iterations, it kind of reminds me of that time when No Man's Sky got a lot of flack, where they were posturing that they could have a permutation of almost an infinite amount of planets and places to explore. And then the game came out, and although that might have been true, it just didn't feel valuable. There's a saying, it's as big as an ocean, but as deep as a pond, right? What you really want to do is to aim for the opposite. Is like it might be as big as a pond, but deep as an ocean, right? You want something deep. It has a lot more strength. And I think if you are a classical concept artist, you know how to draw, you know how to paint, you know how to manipulate imagery using photo bashing, your paints, your paintbrush, Crayola crayons from Target or whatever market that sells pencils and pens. If you can do it with just Play-Doh, then you understand what it means to make artwork. But if you are reliant on, let's say, the AI tool, and let's say there's something that is even faster and better, but then relies on a different paradigm of standards that you may disagree with, then you will find yourself kind of pigeonholed and stuck, right? So it's not practical, guys. Trust me. I am never going to say that there won't be a time that I just won't see the value in AI art at all. I just don't see it now. Outside of, again, the ethical arguments, truly. And once I start to feel that I can get a lot of value from it, is this shadow like directly underneath? Oh, it is. So, okay. And I think I might have to spice it up a bit more. Okay. Just for the sake of, and then I think I gotta just nuke it. Okay, and then I'm gonna colorize this. There's a bit of a blue tint, and that's just from the sky. I think that's fine. It's not as blue, but artistic liberties, right? But yeah, like I said, like if you can find ways to truly adapt in meaningful and effective and meaningfully and effectively, then you can adapt to whatever changes, right? And I have the skill still in my tool set. I have genuinely almost never used this method for quite a long time. I think I'm just going to do multiply. I think this is unnecessary. For quite a long time. Like it's been truly ages that I felt like I have to use photo bashing. A lot of the work that I do these days are almost entirely reliant on my ability to paint well. A lot of the projects I work on, I'm doing more and more stylized stuff. And anything that is more realistic, again, like I said, I just use kind of classical methods like 3D and just drawing. But I'm sure in time I will use some photo bashing techniques here and there if it makes sense to. Just right now, it doesn't make any sense to. What we could do here too is we could do a bit of that, kind of using of this. And I think I'm going to have to do a little bit more sprucing up of this to make this look a little bit more believable. Let's use an airbrush. Where's my airbrush? Airbrush, where you be? Are you in the painterly? Are you hiding? This works. And what's cool is like there's like this kind of dust kick up, so I'm going to use some of that. But let's create a bit of a gradation here, or shadows. Actually, I'm going to make a new layer here. Create a bit more darkness. Actually, I'm not sure if I like that at all. Here, let's start over. It's not too late. I have enough undos. Okay. Why the hell here? It's like there's something off into the distance, a mile away, and it keeps fucking with the way I can transform this bitch. Okay. let's just do this. And let's just soften the edges even more. I think we'll just use the shape that I've already created and just truly soften it pretty aggressively. I think the reason why I'm thrown off is like what this is giving me is like it's conforming to the ground. And this isn't. This is a little too rigid. But I'm not out here to try to make this photo accurate either. Just believable from what we're looking at. I think even that's fine because there's enough air in between the bottom and the top that this would feel a little bit lighter. And I think I still just need to make a layer where I add in like the dust particles and what have you. You know, like this type of stuff that will help kind of make it more cohesive and more painterly. And then add a little bit of like sky bloom in there. That will just generally make this feel a little bit more locked in. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's still some parts that I think we can spice it up, but I think I have done what I've came to do. One thing that I'll probably do too is just add a little bit more color balance overall, just because it's nice to, again, this is artistic. This is my piece of art. I can do whatever I want with it. And yeah, I think this is okay. And like I said, I could show this, like this will be like a rough design. I could show this to a client and they'd be like, whoa, what? That's really cool. And I can make variations. That's the beauty too. Like I can be pretty aggressive with what I do with my shapes. So for instance, I can kind of get rid of this. Let's make a duplicate of this. And let's just think really aggressively. Like let's make something like this, you know, and I'll just start painting the shapes and start to kind of delete the things that I've done here. Or I can kind of think of another way to like repurpose them. But maybe I wanted to make something like this, like some sort of elephant shape version of it. And I would just kind of follow the steps I did prior to kind of fill in this new gaps. But it's like, hey, I got like a new iteration. And it's a lot easier when you have some pieces in place to kind of do this and move rapid fire. Like within like a few hours, 3 to 4 hours, I could probably get 4 or 5 reasonably sketched up photobashed images. They wouldn't look 100% realistic if you zoom up close, but like the impression is there, right? And then the client might approve one. Then I might feel the need to go into 3D and actually make it, knowing that, okay, if I go into 3D, it actually takes much longer, but at the end of the day, it's something I can maneuver and manipulate a lot more effectively. And in fact, when I worked on this movie project where I was dealing with more realistic aesthetic, we ended up using 3D a lot for this very reason. And I didn't photobash at all, though. Everything was hand drawn, and then that was approved, and then I threw it into 3D. But I could have easily just done it in photobash, and they probably would have been just as happy. Maybe they would have approved things even faster. I think there was a bit of skepticism because they saw the 2D aspect of it, and they're like, yeah, but because I think they were still used to looking at something like almost done. You know, those people still exist that need something that looks a lot more finite. But the point I'm making is still pretty clear overall, which is this old process known as photobashing. You know, it's still a very useful tool if you weren't aware of it before. And it is one of those things that I think, even though it requires less effort to know how to paint and render and do all that fancy stuff as much as like just starting from scratch, you still need to learn some of those skills to achieve some viable concept. And I think this is a much more worthwhile time for many of you guys to spend efforts to learn than any other tool that's out there if you're trying to aim for more realistic stuff. And at the end of the day, I am still a huge fan. Just fucking learn how to draw and paint. It will take you so much further. You will transcend any and all of your tools. So anyway, this was not meant to be any kind of long form tutorial. This is just me shooting some shit and making some concepts. But it seems like it is a bit more of a tutorial. It's almost 40 minutes. And I do believe I went on a couple rants here and there. But you know what? That's the value of Robot Pencil's YouTube channel, right? Is that I just talk in circles and you just get double the content. if I go back in a circle, you get to hear it again. All right, guys. Thank you for watching, man. I'll see you guys in the next video.